Hey, it's Amy Shaw here. Oh look, I just passed brass ovaries. Cool. Let's see, it's what is it? October. Geez, I don't even know what month it is. October 11th, 2016. I just got done with my PET scan. Woohoo! And it's why I'm partying it up right now, because I'm super proud of myself. When I first got cancer, you know, I'd never had a CT scan or PET scan or anything like that. My first CT scan, I was terrified. I had no idea like what to expect, or, you know, there was this tiny little machine. They're gonna stick my body in this tube and you gotta hold completely still. I was so scared. And it was just disastrous. I mean, they stuck the needle in my arm for the contrast, the radioactive contrast, and it, like, the line busted. And the contrast went all over. Got all in my hair, on my face, super sticky, disgusting stuff. So they put it back in. Well, it happened twice, okay? This was my first CT scan. This happened to me twice. So medical trauma, right? I mean, it just created so much anxiety. Oh, that is a really weird... So you see some weird stuff out here in this world. So much medical trauma, and man, my first PET scan, the tech, she like left. She left the, sorry, I gotta have a little bit of teenage. Drive me crazy driving around in this traffic with not hearing something. Anyway, the first PET scan I had, the tech like left. She left me in there. And the tube was super small, and it's like a full body, like only your like knees and below hang out. And I started to get nauseous, and I was getting sick, like I was gonna throw up. And I was calling to her, I'm gonna get sick, and nobody was coming. So I, like, in the middle of the scan, had to like wiggle my body out like a freaking caterpillar, to get out of the machine. And a good thing they gave me a blanket, because I got sick. So when you have like that much medical trauma and shit like that happens to you, it creates like this anxiety condition. So like every time I would go into a scan, man, it was really tough. Those PET scans in particular, because it's a narrow tube and your whole body's in there. It's like a coffin. Even if you shut your eyes and don't look, you still can like just feel the air. You know, the air is very claustrophobic, and it's really hard. And the hardest part for me is you have to lay completely still, like totally still. You cannot move, you can't itch, you can't wiggle, nothing. So that would always cause me like a panic attack, because I would get like a in my throat, or I'd have an itch in my nose, and I would sit there and just start thinking about it. You know, oh my God, my nose itches, I can't move, I can't move, you know, and then I would like work myself into a full-on anxiety attack, a panic. So I would always have to, whenever I do like a PET scan or an MRI, oh man, those brain MRIs are the worst, because they like strap your head down and everything, and put this cage over your head. Oh my God, they're horrible, So whenever I would have to go through anything like that, I would just say, give me the drugs, put me out. So I would have to do like Ativan just to get through it. And the last 3 PET scans that I've had, I got through them with no drugs. So I'm really proud of myself, you know, healing on many levels. So yeah, that's why I have the glasses on. Got these out of my granddaughter's toy box at my house. Woohoo! Good day for me. And you know what? They got my vein the first time, so they were able to put that radioactive glucose in me. They I didn't have to go on my foot like they did last time, so my strategy worked this time for keeping my veins all plumpy. And they even gave me like a little goodie bag. Look at that. Some orange juice and some crackers, and I don't want it, but it always feels like a party, right? Anyway, none of that has anything to do with what I want to talk about. I just wanted to explain the reason why I have these crazy glasses on today. And the reason why I'm in my car, because this week is a crazy week for me. I am super busy, appointment to appointment to appointment. It's that time of year. You know, I have treatment this week, and I'm going through all my annual. I had an echocardiogram yesterday, you know, so super busy week for me this week, with going to have tests and scans, and also for my son. So this is my life in the car this week, and so this is the only opportunity I'm going to have to say anything is in my car. And normally I would just let the week pass and not even make a video, honestly, because I don't really care about it that much right now. But there's something really, really, really on my mind. And one thing I've learned is if I have like this sort of burning passion, this compulsion to say something, usually there's somebody that needs to hear it. So I'm going to just take the time to do it. Oh, this is my favorite song. So the thing I want to talk about today is spiritual suicide. It's a heavy topic. Another reason why I chose to make it as fun and as light as possible. So let me see, where do I start? Okay, well, my first understanding consciously of what spiritual suicide is came to me several years ago. I was a Christian, and I liked to engage in the practice of fasting to sort of promote and encourage my connection with God and my spiritual evolution, I guess you could say. And, you know, if you've ever fasted or know that much about it, then you know by about the 6th or 7th day in, you're right in that sweet spot. You know, you're just right in that sweet spot where you're wide open and stuff starts coming. Well, I was in that sweet spot. I was day 6, day 7, somewhere around there. And I had this really profound, I was just contemplating on the crucifixion, you know, and what was that really like for Jesus, you know, and I was really like putting myself in that space of experiencing that in my body and my spirit. And the thought occurred to me, you know, if that was me in that situation, and those Roman soldiers had beat me like that to that degree, and then they put this heavy beam on my shoulders to have to carry up the hill to meet my death, after I was already in this compromised physical condition, beat beyond recognition, the Bible says, what would that be like for me, you know? And the piercing thought that came to my mind is that I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. They could beat me and probably couldn't do much about it, but the second they strapped that thing on me, and you know, the account in the Bible, it says that Jesus fell because the weight of it on his shoulders was heavy. And so in that procession up to the top of Calvary, the hill, he fell. And you know, if you know anything about the story or remember it or don't know, he had a helper that came, a man that came alongside and helped him carry that cross. And I was thinking, like, if that was me, and I, at that moment when I fell, and I was being threatened by the soldiers, you know, get up, get up, get up, or we're going to beat you some more, I would have just laid down and said, you know what, finish me off right here, finish me off right here, I'm done, I'm ready, I'm you know, I already know I'm dying, I already know where I'm going, so finish me off, that's it. I'm too weak, I don't want to, in this weakened physical state, my spirit crushed, knowing I'm going to my death. What incentive is there for me to carry this thing up the hill? You know, there's none. There's no incentive at all. Just be done with it. So realizing that about myself and my, you know, sort of spiritual state, the next piercing thought that came into my mind was, man, Amy, that's spiritual suicide. Do you realize that you just had that realization that you would commit spiritual suicide? You would give up, you would quit, you know? And I thought of all the different ways, you know, in my life that I have been unwilling to surrender to the pain and the suffering, the hard things, never been much of a runner. You know, I've never been much a one to not confront my demons. So in that sense, it wasn't like that. It was more the realization that I'm only willing to take so much pain and suffering and struggle, and then in some ways I bail out. And whether that's, you know, I'm not saying like, well, you know, some people, they like go and they'll drink alcohol, or, you know, use drugs, or use sex, or whatever, you know, all the different addictions that we have. There are ways to not cope with the, you know, the work that we're being asked to do, you know. And I'm not saying like that. I'm not saying, although that is spiritual suicide in every way, that's like putting a gun to your head in a sense. I'm talking about much more subtle, even in just the shift of the mind, of being unwilling to traverse it, if that makes any sense. That was one thing, you know, about cancer. I see people all the time, you know, trying to be in this space of, oh, you know, fight like a girl, fuck cancer, you know, the hashtag is very popular. I kick cancer's ass, and I see all these kind of sentiments, and it's okay. I mean, it's a process. There's stages to it, and everyone has to find their own way. So I'm not trying to say like anybody else's path is invalid. I'm trying to say that doesn't resonate with me, and it never has, honestly. Because even in my early days of dealing with cancer, I was like, what am I supposed to learn from this? And it wasn't asking like, why me, in the sense of like, oh, boo-hoo, why me, what I do to deserve this? It wasn't in that sense. It was asking more like, why me, in the sense of like, why am I so special that this has been tasked to me? And what is it that I'm supposed to glean from it? And how? Those are the kinds of things that I was asking. Anyway, that's what it, you know, what was about for me. And I had to basically like grab cancer by the head and just freaking kiss it square on the mouth and say, yeah, let's do this. Let's get this done, you know? And I met women, so many women, at various stages of cancer, who just, oh, I have faith, it just rolled off, I just let it roll off my back, I know God's got it. And again, I mean, that's their path, that's where they're at. I can't illegitimize that for them. I just never understood it. I never understood that way of being, because if we're meant to just walk around in life walking on water all the time and floating above everything, then what's the point? Why are we even here? We came here to have a human experience, and as spiritual as we try to be, it doesn't matter. We are already spiritual beings. It's like that saying goes, that quote or whatever it is. You know, we're not human beings having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. That's exactly what I'm trying to say, basically. There's such a deep truth to that, because we spend so much time like in our humanity trying to be spiritual, reaching up to try to be spiritual. We already are that. Like, we don't have to strive for that. We already are that. You know, we should be actually sort of reaching down, trying to embrace our humanity and ask, what's our purpose here? Why are we here? Why did we incarnate? What is it about these experiences that, you know, we're supposed to learn? And I think a lot of people don't want to do that. And just an unwillingness to do that, whatever that looks like, from as extreme as addiction to as unnoticeable as just a mental perspective about something and positioning with something, we commit spiritual suicide. You know, we have a hard time accepting pain. You know, we reject people who are in pain. You know, like Job in the Bible had everything taken away from him. And his friends, because they couldn't within themselves they did was they blamed him. It was, oh, it's your fault. This is happening to you because it's your fault. You must have done something wrong. You deserve this. You know, and I'm not saying people don't suffer consequence of their actions, okay? That's a whole different thing. In Job's case, that wasn't the case at all. But regardless of what the purpose is, or, I mean, regardless of why somebody's suffering, if it's a consequence or it's just a cosmic alignment of the path, when you blame somebody else for their situation, it's your own way of saying, like, I'm committing spiritual suicide here because I don't want to look at, I don't want to face the pain. I don't want to ask the hard existential questions of myself, of what's my purpose. And so, I don't know, the reason this is on my mind is that because a lot of people, I'm just so sick of this perspective of transcending all the time, you know. Anytime anybody has any issue or they're going through something, the answer is always a transcending, you know. Oh, this is just illusion. Oh, well, you know, you're evolving, or you're, you know, whatever the answer to it is. You guys know what I'm talking about. In a sense, when you tell somebody that this is just illusion, it is sort of a form of spiritual suicide. You're offering them an out. And I mean, it's a tricky thing because there's truth to it, and you don't want somebody to get stuck. So it does require a lot of discernment if you're actually in a situation where you're counseling somebody or working with them, discerning where they're at in their positioning. Because it can go two ways, you know. If somebody truly is stuck and holding on to, you know, sort of these false belief systems, creating this reality, then yeah, you're going to encourage them to understand their power, and that they can create their own reality, and that they can rise above this and all of that. There's that aspect. But the other aspect of that too is that there's a lot of people who are using that as a way to commit spiritual suicide. A lot of people will use the term bypassing, spiritual bypassing. That's another way to describe it. But how it was revealed to me was as suicide, a spiritual suicide. And the thing I think that people forget is that we are still human beings. We're in human bodies. In our DNA, in our very human brain, we have the drive for life. We have the drive for survival. That's in us. If we were meant to just transcend to the higher dimensions and live our whole lives in that space, as if that's what we're here for, to learn how to do that. We came from there, people. We came from there. We're not here on Earth to learn how to get back. It's ridiculous, because you know what? The moment that we transition, it's over. It's done. We don't have to learn how to do that. It's going to happen. Just like we didn't have to learn how to be born. It happened. Right? Same thing. We don't have to learn how to transcend. We don't have to strive for that. It's already ours. It's already ours. It's already who we are. What we have to strive for is this life, this purpose, this incarnation, this human expression. This is what we have to strive for. And understanding that these aspects of ourselves that are in our DNA, that are in our bodies, in our brains, that tell us to survive, that drive us towards survival, this is a good thing. That's what keeps us here on this earth. It's what grounds us and puts our feet on the ground, because we are spiritual beings. If we didn't have that aspect of humanity, we'd be all floating out around everywhere all the time, you know? And so sometimes these really strong emotions and experiences are a way to ground ourselves into our humanity. And we're here to help each other not ascend, but to be human. So, you know, when you consistently live that reality really doing them a favor. In those moments where they're feeling every inch of their humanity, the aches in their joints, and the headache from crying so much, and the deep feeling in the center of the chest that just aches and cries out, and all these moments, we have to be willing to sit with one another in those moments, and to allow ourselves to feel that too, and not offer the easy way out, and not blame the person. Well, this is happening to you because this, and this, and this. That's not what we're called here to do, to be judges and, to be attorneys, and we're called here to love, to come alongside one another and support and encourage one another, to laugh with they who laugh, and to cry with they who cry. And so that's really just what's on my mind and my heart today, is spiritual suicide, and sitting with somebody who might be suicidal, and I don't mean in the literal physical, although the two things do overlap, don't they, in some ways, and in the most profound moments of grief, they overlap. But yeah, just being able to really sit with somebody in that space where they want to bail out, and allow ourselves to feel that too. And the only way that we can really help people in that situation, truly, to bring healing, is to offer them presence and bring our own healed selves. Because we've done that work. We've sat in those spaces, and we've made those hard choices to continue on and to live life. That's one thing I really learned very profoundly from Stephen Jenkinson in his work with dying people, is that you can't really live life and you can't really love life unless you love all of it, including the end. Because it's part of the experience. It's part of the human experience. And that just aligns with what I have already known in my own experience of spiritual suicide, and being unwilling to endure the grief and the pain. And like I said, it could even just be a simple mind shift of like saying, oh, grief and pain and suffering, those are all low vibrational things, man. Even the fear, that's low vibrational, man. We're not, that's not spiritual. You gotta rise above that, raise your vibration. Go out and do this and this and this and this to raise the vibration. Those are all things that lead to spiritual suicide, really, truly. Because it's not allowing healing. So for those of us who have gone to those spaces, who have said, you know what, no, I'm not it's not fuck cancer, it's thank you, cancer, for coming into my life. If this is my end, so be it. I'm going to love it as much as I loved my birth and my awakening and everything else, every other aspect of my life. I'm going to love it. It's part of the wonderful, beautiful, mysterious journey of incarnating as a human being and walking a path on this earth with other human beings. So I know it sounds crazy, but that's because of my own healed state. What I try to offer people who are in pain and suffering is not only the permission to feel that, but even the permission to see the beauty in it, to love it. So anyway, guys, that's kind of just, I had to pull over here at the park for a second just to finish out. Anyway, I think for me, I would have to say that's how you truly know if somebody is a healer, because they're in a process of working through that stuff. And, to actually come out into the world and be in a position to offer healing to somebody else, we have to be in our healed states. And in our healed state, in actuality, just our presence is enough. And so when we're dealing with somebody who's in that space of hurting and suffering, and they're contemplating spiritual suicide, and sometimes that overlaps with physical, actual suicide, right? But even if it's not at that level, it's not that extreme, it's just the spiritual suicide, that sort of, that thrashing around that we do to avoid the pain and the suffering, that wants to tell us to just go do this, just go do that, to raise the vibration. I'm so sick of hearing that. You're suffering, you're in pain, you're in grief. Oh, you must have done something, right? As Job's friend said, this is your fault this is happening. And so here's what you have to go do, A, B, C, D, D, D. To raise the vibration. Angels on the sideline. There's a lot of times where that's actually BS, because when we put it on that level, as Job's friends did, we're not really offering people healing. We're either forcibly keeping them in the spot or encouraging them to stay in the spot, or we are like making it be about them, so it's something that they have to do to alleviate the pain and suffering of what they're enduring. And that's not really how true healing happens. True healing happens when we can sit in the presence with somebody like that, and we, because we are already also in our healed state, are willing to reflect back and within ourselves to remember what that was like for us, and to not only give permission for the individual to experience what they're experiencing, but to also learn to love it, to embrace it as the beautiful part of life. Anything less than that is spiritual suicide. That's really the bottom line that it's taken me all this time to say, is that's what I was really shown. That anything less than that, than truly embracing and loving it, is spiritual suicide. So even though I can grab cancer square on the mouth and kiss it, I still will bemoan it. Oh my God, and I still struggle with that at times. It's a very, very heavy burden. I mean, talk about shouldering a cross. Man, try walking a path of metastatic cancer from 30 years old. That it's a heavy, heavy cross to bear. But that second that I'm like, oh my God, this cross is so heavy and it's so hard. I'm committing spiritual suicide. Because what I'm saying is, I don't love life enough to be willing to endure this. My willingness to live, to survive, to continue on begins to wane. Make sense? I don't know. Makes sense to me. So I just want to offer that to anybody out there that says that they're a healer, they're a shaman, whatever you are. And if you're out there, even a therapist, counselor, if you're out there, a life coach, you're out there doing work with people, it's important to keep this in mind, that it's not just about avoiding pain. It's not just about, well, don't drink that alcohol, go exercise. I mean, either way, it could be just as unhealthy for the person, because you're not allowing them or encouraging them to not only experience it, but fully own it, fully live in it, be grateful for it, celebrate it, see it for the beauty that it really truly is. Life. Welcome to Earth. It's a short ride. We're going to be out of here in not that much longer. So keep going. Just keep going. I know you guys can do it. I love you all so much. And I'm thankful for all of you being here and for your willingness to bear witness to your pain and your struggle and your grief. I hear you.